Hello,
Guys,
hello, hello.
don't
How are
worry.
you doing?
You
I found
you
Austin. He
I
was trying to hide out in behind the couch here in the
here I am.
dumpsters. He said, "I can't show my face. I use motion blur on a project." And I said, "That's so silly. We'll never forgive you, but you could at least come back on the show once or twice."
So here I am.
So here he is.
I have gotten out of exile and I'm back on this here show. And thank goodness, so you guys don't have to watch Jackson and Noah fumble around for 10 minutes on the stream anymore trying to figure out how to get the stream started.
That was the highlight, by the way. Everyone loved that section.
Oh, I did too. Don't worry. Belle had it playing in the car. It was great.
It
Well,
was awesome.
Missed y'all. Missed y'all. I'm here. I'm hanging.
Oh, I missed you too.
I wasn't talking to you, freaking loser. What the hell? Gross. Yucky. TSCG music in the chat says first time catching the live. So so glad that that's the intro that we could have given. John said, all right, Edie, I am Mo fellas. You feeding the old Mo fellas? That's us. That's totally what we should call it. Was just Mo Show.
Hello, with the Mo Show.
And we'll do like we'll only have like Motown beats in the background or something. That would be
I'm
great.
into that. I'm into that.
Daily Mo Show. It's okay. It would help our SEO because Daily Motion is an actual company, unfortunately. Anyway, what's up, Joe? Just glad to see you.
I think that's really cute.
I agree. We'll just go ahead and change it right now. Today's show has changed to rebranding the Daily Mo Show.
The Daily Mo Show. Yeah,
anyway,
I like that. I like that.
What up, Christian? Glad to see ya. We got our crits. We got our Rex. We've got it all coming at you today. Tomorrow.
Listen, I wanna just say, if you haven't submitted work to be critiqued, like, what are you doing?
What are you even doing
right
here?
We're right here. I even have my sunglasses today. I don't have to put the weird lens caps on my eyes. It's really, you gotta do it. It's such a good time. You're gonna love it.
Come on in, y'all. What up, Austin? Sailor, how you doing? Valve, glad to see you.
Oh my God,
Austin says that it's his first time catching the love too. Well, God, everybody's catching it. It's somebody needs to. We need to get a vaccine in here or something. I don't know.
Where's the love?
Anyway, glad to see y'all. We yeah, submit your work for critique. We're running out. Running out of work to critique. We've been going through them too quick. So oopsies. And all that good stuff. Today we're gonna talk about what's gonna happen with studios within the next few years. It's becoming a little more clear to me what's going down in studio land, especially with Buck's game coming out recently. Well, not coming out, but being announced.
When is that? Wasn't that announced? No, it's gonna be announced on the 17th.
No, it's already announced, and they have like a little demo or whatever. But
that's what I was looking forward to.
It's the actual game won't be out for quite a while on Steam. Sometime later this year, I think maybe in the fall.
Oh, that's not actually that far. Hold on.
But
keep talking. I'm gonna look.
We can just chat about what that means. I mean, I'll also just use us as an example. Bravi puts out content nonstop all the time. It was actually very funny being at my girlfriend's parents for Easter because her mom follows me on Instagram and doesn't follow a whole lot of other people. And since I post every single day with some motion tip or whatever, I got to sit there while they all talked about how I'm always showing up on their goddamn phones. So no one can escape the Ravi magnet on social right now. And a lot of studios are starting to sort of hop on that bandwagon, whether it be just creating social content or my favorite thing that I think that we'll see in the next couple of years is studios just remembering and realizing, oh, wait, we can make cool stuff for ourselves too, not just for other companies. And then we can sell those things or make new IP or whatever we want with that and spin up businesses based on us just making the content that we loved making. There's so many people that got into the industry that just wanted to make cool things, and now they're like, I'm making the same explainer video for the 870th week in a row. I don't know how many years that is, but it sounds like it's like 16 years, I think. I don't know. That seems like a lot. But I really think that we're going to start seeing so many more studios, whether it be social content and just talking about how they work their process and those sorts of things, or actually starting to create their own like media property with like making games, or like we're gonna start doing shows and other challenges and all sorts of different things. Like I think that's gonna be a really big shift in the industry, and it's not necessarily. I was thinking about what I was gonna say for this, and at first I was kind of getting into like, oh well, maybe this is gonna signal like it's kind of hard to rely on consistent income from clients on a project to project basis. I mean, we all know that. So maybe this is signaling like a turn away from that, and like a majority of the revenue will just be made off of content. I don't see that happening for a really long time. Prices are going to take a while to come down to that point, but I do think that it is going to make motion design a much bigger industry. I'm not talking about necessarily in terms of just the amount of eyes on it from an advertising standpoint. Like people going, I should do that motion graphics doohickey instead of getting a live action crew out here. I'm not meaning that. More so meaning just like the amount of people who will be interested in it as a career will probably grow pretty vast, pretty quickly. Because think about what, the future did for graphic design. I mean, I know I started graphic design when I was like 12 or 13, and I was already watching their content by the time I was 14 or 15, thinking I was going to be a design business person at 14 or 15 years old. And like Christo made that career really enticing and was able to show that like, oh, hey, the stuff you see all the time is actually a viable career path. And we're seeing that with all sorts of people coming into the Discord and things, like in high school or just starting college or whatever. Like there's so many young people that are coming into this field now realizing like, wait, this is like the amalgamation of all these different media things that I've been seeing my whole life. I'm a what?
What I really love is like people all over like TikTok and stuff showing their creative process, and people getting into it in like non-traditional, not even like, oh, I want to do this for a living kind of ways, and then they just end up being successful at it because they're so driven by passion. They just want to make something cool, and then they do, and then people notice, and then it's all a whirlwind from there, really. And that's a neat little progression to see, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, we might see a like taking back of the industry by the creatives, like bringing some of that, taking it back with that passion rather than it just kind of being a tool for businesses right now. It felt like for a while it was just like, oh cool, we can like do animation in this way rather than having to do a whole Pixar thing, and that was a fun way to do it. But that meant that it was almost entirely focused on like, how can I get this ROI for this business, and very much like marketing, advertising focused. Whereas it's becoming so accessible and people are getting really good at it and able to do interesting things to the point where it's like, it can just stand on its own. It doesn't have to be for some purpose of just like slave to the corporate machine. You can just make cool things. And I think a lot of this thought was spurred for me just by thinking about like, man, how are businesses going to be able to keep going on for so long trying to convince like how our studio is going to be able to go on so long convincing other businesses like, yes, hundreds of thousands of dollars for my 30-second short, please. Like, yes. And we'll get you this ROI and we'll see this return, whatever. And it's probably because I was telling you about that lead that we talked with a long time ago. He was asking for like just about updated pricing and all that stuff. And then the questions kept coming. It was like okay, can you show me one that was actually on web? Like, can you show me one that was just posted recently? And I'm like, okay, here's one. And then I was like, it was for an event. They're like, okay, actually, can you show me one that was just not for an event, but like only on only on social ads? And I was like, okay, here's this thing. And then it like just kept, every single time I gave something, it was like more questioning for some sort of proof of like whether or not it would be a viable purchase or something. And I was like, didn't we already sell you on this?
Like, take a risk. I don't know, man.
Like, didn't we already sell you on this however many years ago? I don't understand. Why are we doing this now when our work is way better?
Silly.
And so I don't know. It seems very clearly like unsustainable at a certain point, no matter how big your studio is or whatever, I feel like the project to project stuff will just kind of mellow out, you know? The exponential growth can only go on for so long, I feel like. And so being able to see studios diversifying with like really owning their own creative and just kind of turning it into, let's do this fun thing with this, and using that to get some more like passive income for expenses or whatever, I think is going to be a pretty big thing. And honestly, I'm surprised that we haven't seen more studios hopping on it yet, especially with some of the stuff that's just more attainable, you know? Because there's some of those studios that have Instagram accounts that have got like 50,000 plus followers or something, and they're just not really utilizing it. They're just posting whatever work they made recently or something, but they're not really like doing anything to connect with those audiences. It's wild.
They do not get the best engagement.
Really weird.
They
Really
could be
strange to
really
me.
doing something with it. Dang it.
So that's my prediction. Give it a couple years, and I think you'll see most studios, most like prominent studios, having some sort of community engagement or starting to make creative just for creative's sake for their own audiences.
I think you can really see this reflected also in the more independent artist sector, as it kind of moves from there into other businesses seeing like, oh, this is actually a sustainable model.
Yeah.
It's not just like these people getting lucky, because there's so many eyes that you can get in front of now. You can really just blow it up, and who's to say that can't be done on a brand as well, especially if the brand is very personable.
Well, and I'm not saying that everybody has to like or necessarily wants to be like an influencer or some shit like that, but from my point of view, it sure looks like some of the people who are influencers in the motion space are having way more fun than like freelancer A, who is just continuing to try to pitch to studios or like, please give me work or blah, 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 as opposed to just being like, I made this tutorial today, or I'm making this new project, or here's my course that I'm working on, or whatever. Like, it's all inside of, you're bringing it all inside of your own bubble as a creative person by doing that, rather than having to just like be at the whim of studios or brands or whatever and just hope that there's work at that time, you know? Now, I'm also not saying that Ravi is not going like 100% all in on content and just being like, no more client stuff, because we have great clients who don't fall under any of the sort of, what's the word for that? Gripes that we see from like a lot of people in the industry.
That's the word for that.
Yeah. But we certainly are. I mean, I would love to get to a point where like 50% of the revenue coming into the business is from some just creative related thing that we're doing, you know?
That would be so much fun. That'd be the best.
It'd be great. It'd be great. I'm excited for that future. Even if we can get to like 15%, that's a huge win. I would love that. No idea necessarily how we're going to do that, or like what money making methods could get us there. Because here's the like conniving little demon.
What's the conniving little
of that
demon
whole
of
thing?
this?
So the creative, in terms of the content and all of those other things, gets Noah and I very, very excited. But we could, first of all, we don't really want to sell things to y'all because that just feels kind of two-faced in a weird way, unless it's something that would actually be beneficial to the community or whatever. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, if we sold more project files or courses or whatever, that money, like, we have to make so many sales to even come close to what we can just get from normal client projects. So it's such a tug of war, because it's like, yes, this stuff can be way more fun a lot of the time, and it's like really all under our control entirely and whatever, but then also it's like, how about you just sell one project and get the amount of money that you'd get from like 6 months of doing that? It's like, oh, okay, I'll be over here, I guess. I don't know. It's a real tug of war thing, to be able to like actually turn that into a profitable thing that can be a big part of the business. But
if I be about to sell people stuff, I'm better believe it's going to be of value, and I would rather have, like, rather than start selling and then slowly ramp that up, I'd rather have like an audience, and then it really feels like worth everybody's time for me to invest it into making something that's really valuable to people.
Right. And also really makes me respect, like,
who knows,
large YouTube channels, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they're even able to monetize in that way is astounding, you know?
It is. Yeah, there's so many interesting ways of monetization. That being said, within the year I'll probably set up a little shop for posters, so that'll be fun.
Ba-boom!
But that's more just out of like I want to be able to like give people stuff that will make their houses more pretty for as cheaply as I possibly can. So that's more where that comes from, and less of like I want to make money with this.
Right. Any of the stuff that we have sold so far has honestly just been like how much money do we want to make this so that way people will actually do it and get value out of it? Like, we're not making money off of the $5 project files that are up on Gumroad or whatever, really. But it makes it so that it's not just going to sit in someone's folder forever, you know? Because if I spent $5 on something, I know I'm going to go look at that thing compared to if it was just some free asset or something, you know? I have so many free assets that are just sitting in a zipped folder somewhere. I never even unzipped them to look at them or anything. I'm just like, yes, gobble that up and just do nothing with it.
Gobble that up.
There's something about like getting people to buy into something for their own sake that's just, I think, a good way to get people to learn. Austin says, so the ones I've seen are Games, Buck and IV, Golden Wolf that's now part of Doodles versus doing client work. Any other examples of studios doing non-client stuff? Those were the three in my mind. Not that I know of.
Buck has Buck You Back.
You've got... Well, but that's not making them any money.
I don't think so. Yeah, no.
No. But, I mean, I guess another way you can look at it, there's more community-oriented things like Dash does Dash Bash every couple years. The profit margin on that probably isn't great, but, you know, it's still something that they could inevitably turn into some sort of, you know, depending on what venue they get or whatever, they could eventually get it to a point where it's profitable with volume. But yeah, any studios that's putting on any studios that are putting on events or something like that, I think are really the only other thing that I'm seeing right now. There's a couple other smaller things, you know. There's Monday's Challenge. There's like there's not studios that are doing some things, but there are some like motion-centric things that are popping up. You know, I mean, motionographer's been around forever, but was the New York Times of motion. You know, there's all sorts of interesting things that I think just like kind of popped up throughout motion's big rise, but you know, it's just not quite. I don't know. I don't know why more people didn't catch on to being like, what are other ways I can do this outside of just making content or for clients, you know? I feel like we're starting to see that now that everybody was kind of stuck at home from COVID and whatever. People are getting a little bit more creative, and TikTok and Reels are more accessible to get audiences and those sorts of things. Austin says, yeah, Dash Bash, pretty sure it's not profitable, but good for brand. Yeah, there's no way. But also, it's super fun. And honestly, Noah and I were talking about it. If we ever did an event, we would fully go in with the expectations of like ticket sales would just be like a Patreon, basically, to where we would just use that money to make it the best event possible and then invest like some amount on top of it ourselves. So that way, like, we're making no money on it. We're losing money with whatever investment ours was. But
like the Costco chickens.
But it's fun. It's fun. That's the good part of it. And he says, and obviously you guys with everything you're building as a foundation for whatever's next. Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to spread out our little tendrils in all directions to see what we can, to see just what we can do. And every week we keep finding more and more things. I'm sure Jackson and Danny, our editors, are like, guys, what the hell? Come on. Can we have some consistency here, please, in what we're doing? And we're like, well, we just gotta find out what sticks. Sorry.
We just gotta keep it going.
And speaking of Tendril, not that they did this, but they always remind me. I mean, they make me think of that like sector of studios that Yambo is in as well. They tried the NFT thing for a little while. I'm sure there's still some studios that are doing well with NFTs, but I don't really know enough on that space anymore to comment much more on how that must be going.
It feels a little bit like hype beast area now. It feels like
It's very
a
like
digital
niche.
evolution of like people who really were into shoes. That's very interesting. I don't know. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I get that. There was something. Oh yeah, Old Garrett says I've heard there's this thing called Review Challenge. It's pretty cool stuff. Y'all, you don't even know what we're gonna do with the challenges. It's gonna be so
Yeah,
fun.
you don't even
It's
know.
gonna be so fun. We're gonna have like the same normal challenges that we've been doing, maybe every other month or once a month. I don't know, but we want to make it this like much more engaging thing. So we're gonna have this like separate new set of challenges where I'll just spill all the beans. I think we talked about this on the show like a couple weeks ago, but I can't remember how far we actually got into it. Here's the idea for the new challenges. All right. We do this live show here. Yes, right? Here it is. We're in it. And we'll have like 8 to 16 people sign up, okay? And then they're in a bracket. Everybody will be like placed one-on-one matchups, right? And they'll all have some task that they'll have, some animation they'll have to do to some prompt in a certain amount of time. And now we don't know if we're actually going to have them animate live. I would like to do that, but it could be very hard to coordinate time zones and stuff. So if we don't do it live, we would just have everybody work on their submission that week and then go ahead and have us review those at the end of the week to choose who moves on. But effectively, it would be like a month-long game show in the sense where it would be like all of these people head-to-head matchups. And so in that first week, you've got all 16 players. And they go up against each other, and only 8 are left after that. So that next week, those 8 people go up against each other, and then it's down to 4, and then it's down to 2, and then you have your one winner. And that's over the course of like one day of the show each week of the month. You would have that matchup bracket action, whether it's live or it's sort of asynchronous. We don't know, but yeah, basically a tournament every month for motion designers, and then like the end of the year, we could make sure that we've got it all live, and we could actually have like all the winners of those challenges throughout the year going up against each other in their own bracket. So it's like the winners tournament or some shit, like our version of the Super Bowl with like all sorts of different graphics, and we could have it be like design esports where we've got like our little switcher here with everybody's camera feeds and be able to be like, let's go over to this player now. And Noah and I are commentating while they're all deafened in Discord or some shit. Like there's so many fun opportunities with that. We
so
really,
much to do there.
really want to do it, and there's like fun things that we could include in that where there's like, sure, there'd be some cash prizes and those sorts of things, but we could also have like, what are we calling them? We want to call them like keyframes.
Points?
We don't know what we're gonna call them, but like
Keyframes.
basically just review points where like you could use them to
Review keys? That's nothing.
No.
Well, I don't know.
But like those could be used because we don't want to have people just paying money or whatever, but those could be used to like
keyframes? Sorry. I'm done.
those could be used to like redeem for like review merch, or like if you get to X amount, then like you can book time with Noah and I for a 30-minute call, one-on-one or whatever, or 2-on-1, or just things like that. Or you get like a special rank in the server, or you get to be like a YouTube channel member or something, and then you get like uploads a week early or some shit. We haven't figured all that out. We don't know, but it'd be fun. It'd be a great time. We've got those. We've got some other things that we're trying to work on. Yeah, we've got like 6 game shows that we're just making internally that we want to do, and we still have to film the actual the action for this other one. That would be so fun. We're essentially doing like take after, like everybody has to animate the same thing on the team. It's all head to head, like four of us on the team. But you get to bid for what tools you want. So like everything is off the table. Like the move tool, you have to buy the freaking move tool with your budget at the beginning of the game, and then if you get it, nobody else can use the move tool, and if they do, they like pay you money throughout the game or some shit. Like it'll make way more sense when the video comes out, but we've got that. We've got like motion design blackjack, and this, like there's so many different ideas. And I mean, I almost can't wait for us to have a period without like some client work for a second, so that we can just be like, let's go, let's just make games for a week, you know? but also money. So I don't want to have that much time where we're not having a client project.
But
or anything.
also money.
But also, because also money. But like, guys, it's so fun. We're trying to make motion design this really, really fun and appealing thing because that's what it feels like for us. And we're so tired of seeing all these jaded people that are so just like cynical and bitter about the industry because they've been in it for too long. You know, make it fun. Let's lighten up. Let's just, we're making pretty pictures for jobs. Like, come on.
We're making
It ain't that deep.
It's true. It's true. I sometimes describe my job to people like that.
Make pretty
So I
picture
make
for
pretty
jobs.
pictures online.
That's what it is.
That could be anything, really, but but whatever. It's good.
So anyway, that's the future that I hope to see in the industry, and that hopefully we can be a part of for a long time.
The future we hope to see.
Yep. So boom, there it is. There's some sneaky peekies at some coming up review stuff. We're gonna also fun little news drop for y'all. Talked about it last week too, but Noah and I have to find time to actually make an announcement this week. We're gonna be looking for a design intern. Barbara's not an intern anymore. We don't have any interns on the team because Barbara's now a full-blown motion designer. So we're looking to bring on a design intern. It'd be great if they could also do motion, but we really want someone who can just help us in storyboarding and those other things and be able to grow into a full-blown designer on the team. So we'll be on the lookout for that very soon. Sometime this week we should announce that, depending on how crushed we get under the projects that we currently have. But who knows? We'll see. I think that was it for the stuff that I wanted to plug. Yeah,
I think that's probably everything.
We'll do we also want to set signups up for that tournament thing soon. We'll probably, I was thinking earlier today, I'm like, why haven't we done a stage on the Discord in a long time? I'll probably do one of those where Noah and I will have a more formalized, like, here's the list of all the things we think we'll try with the community, and then have that stage as like a live feedback session of like does this sound like a shitty plan? Like, what things are you seeing as like flaws that we might want to look out for already? And just get that live feedback or whatever on the Discord. I think that'd be fun. So at the very least, that will probably happen sometime this week. Not sure when though. So join the Discord because you'll get a notification for when that happens.
Join a Discord.
And on that note, Noah, do you have anything else you'd like to say on that? Or are you ready for sunglasses time?
I'm almost ready for sunglasses time. Oh, guys, I really appreciate that you guys want to organize all this cool stuff. You have some fun and get the community together. And yes to that. I appreciate you appreciating me. So thank you. Wouldn't have it any other way.
I mean, we tell people all the time, you just got to follow the passion. And that's where the passion takes Noah and I, is just like, it has to be fun. That's
gotta be
just
fun.
What it is. It has to be fun and or momentous and blah, blah, blah. It's just got to be it's such an easy thing too, because we see nobody else doing it, you know? Or at least to like,
so strange.
With the commitment that we want to have to it, we just aren't seeing that, and I just find that baffling. I don't know.
So we'll be the first, damn it. I love it.
And especially for
Aries, that's perfect.
Especially for that person that said that one of my motion tips was going to be the downfall of the community in motion design or something.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Which one was that?
It was the one about it was the experience in the industry thing. Now I don't know. People keep talking, like, I feel like people throw that word out often, community, but I don't really feel like there is any central hub for the industry at all. It feels like everybody is off in their own little pockets and whatever, but then people just get all up in arms about like, things are being ruined and blah, and I'm like, there's nothing here. What do you mean? This is nothing right now.
It's like walking into a desert and being like, why are you fucking it up with your little tiny house? It's like, there's
nothing here.
Fucking what up? What are you talking about? I like planted a tree. Go away, man.
Yeah.
Not that the motion design industry is a desert. It's more of a tundra. Anyway, let's
Also,
jump into what's up?
Austin Sailor says he's got to run. We'll see you, man. We will be talking with Jake Bartlett from Jake in Motion tomorrow on the show. We'll be hanging.
That's true.
Be on the
There's
lookout for
another
that.
update.
That was the last update that I wanted to give. I knew there was one more that I was missing, and it was that
There
one,
it
which was the
was.
first one that I meant to say. Of course.
Oops.
All
We'll say it
right.
again at the end. All right, let's
do it.
let's
That is not sounding
critique
like
some work.
it's saying what you're saying when you say it that many times. Yep. Uh-huh. You said it like 20 times. Great. All right, here we go, y'all. It's time to crit some shit. I know
Would
you've
love
been
to crit some
waiting.
shit.
We've got 2 show reels. One of them was submitted not by the actual person, but this one was. Here we go. A long intro.
Oh. Okay. That was hard to read. I like the frog guy. I think he's cute. Oh no. Okay. No?
Oh, it's still going.
Yeah. Still going. Still going. Oh, I've had those dates before. I know those dates.
Let's just let that keep playing. You're just giving me too much. You're just giving me too much, Jake Morris.
Jake Morris, this is a lot happening here.
Too long, just in general, but also every single one of these shots is too long. Every single one. Each of these should be like a quarter of the length that they are currently. I feel like we're seeing the entire video of each of these spots, and that's just not what a reel's for. I feel like you could have just given your best shot from each of these videos and put it in here, and that would have been totally fine. I hovered at 20 because it was just so slow, and I don't. People aren't gonna have enough time to sit and watch through all of that at that pace. If they're going through like dozens and dozens of reels, you know, it takes too long to actually understand what your capabilities are. And by the time we get here, when you're talking about like,
Yeah.
motion designing, illustrating, storyboarding, character animation, like we already knew that. It was all in here.
I also
already.
fully didn't register those things because everything felt like also work. It didn't have like a distinctive kind of thing. Also, there's this section right after, I think right after this part where it gets into green. No,
I know what you're talking
maybe after
about.
this part. The frame rate goes from pretty consistently being
like
24
18 or
12
24 or something like that
to like 60, it feels like. And I don't know, it makes me feel very strange. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we go back into less.
Opening shot was real long, unintended. I couldn't tell if it was actually going to start or not for a second. Yeah, it seriously just like speed up each of these shots and remove like 80% of them. Honestly, it feels like you're just. I get the point of the video. After you've already shown me 1 or 2 of those scenes, I don't need to see more of them from each of those videos.
And then you have a completely like, I don't know, that whole ending little section completely throws me for a loop. It's very different than the rest of your work.
Agreed.
I would say include the work that you want to get. Do you want to do a bunch of Instagram stories? Because that's what the ending thing looks like.
Yeah, I
It's
was
very
a little
strange.
confused. It felt just kind of like thrown in and didn't really feel super well integrated to the reel. I also don't know what this is. I don't know what that was. It just feels very out of place with the rest of it. It's just like, who is this person? I don't know. Is that Jake Morris? I'm not sure. Why is the type so squished? I don't know.
It's odd. It's very odd and kind of long.
And like Roland said in the chat, varying degrees of quality in there. Yes. Only show your best stuff. Only show your best stuff. I could tell the moment that I got to like some older stuff, you know? Shouldn't be able to do that.
Because that's not accurate to what you're going to actually make. I do like that scene with the house and the leaves going up.
Agreed.
If they are leaves.
Particles or whatever they are, it looks cool. You know? Yep. Also, time remapping is your friend when you're speeding things up. You can condense some of those scenes down. Like I feel like this applies to most of the shots in here. We've already seen like one of these objects pop on in the scene. We don't need to see all of the rest of them also draw on. You could have cut out like that in between part, or just shown the part where like the last one is drawing on and you're getting to the actual action of the scene, you know?
Yeah. Cut out that middle.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Boom roasted.
Boom roasted.
Boom roasted. Now we have Ishin's
Is
reel.
this an Ishin?
It's an Ishin reel. This I don't remember who this was submitted by, but it's not Ishin. So we're just gonna crit it anyway. I can already tell you, I've seen this before. It's way too long.
It's way too long.
So long, and compared to how zippy, like fun, poppy energy, like his motion actually is in each of his videos, the reel feels very slow, and also the reel does not help his work, because when you're watching each of those videos, it can feel like they each have their own little universe, you know? They've kind of got differentiated styles enough to where they feel like their own thing. Like you can call out Motet versus Quiet and Upset or whatever.
I feel like it should have ended by now.
But right, like it feels almost like a VJ loop or something, where it's just like background stage visuals. It feels like it's the same thing, just over and over and over and over again. Like when you're watching one of these on their own, they've got like really interesting sound effects and it's kind of like a cappella and acoustic and whatever. But then when you're watching the reel, those chaotic motions, if all of it is chaos, the whole thing just feels like it's repeating itself over and over and over again, you know? Not to mention it just is too long. I mean, we're already we're like just barely halfway through, you know?
Yeah.
It's just too much. Just too
much.
Much.
It doesn't feel like a mesh. And then we get into like more client stuff towards the end.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't really usually see that.
But also, like did we not just cut back to the exact same sequence that was at the beginning? I feel like we've seen the same thing like 5 times.
It like cycles between the same projects, and you're like, oh, I've seen that one before, and it kind of starts making everything look samey, which is a tragedy because this person's a fantastic animator.
Yep.
And has some of the most interesting, unique work I've ever seen, and to do that to themselves and shoot themselves in the foot with like making their own very interesting, unique work look samey.
Yep.
It's sad. So
and it really starts to limit like what what a hiring manager or something would think of a video like this, because they're like, oh, can this person only do this thing, you know? Because it all starts to feel the same.
Leave it to their imagination a tiny bit.
I can't. It's like you guys know me, I love fast cuts and stuff, but I'm not even looking at it on my monitor. I'm looking at it on like the OBS preview over here, and it's making me feel like nauseous because there's just too much happening.
Yeah.
But we know he has really great work. It just, I don't know. His reel surprised me when it came out. Like, huh?
Why? Huh? You don't have to include it all. Just
doesn't
do the
all have
best
to be in there.
parts.
I don't know.
Goes
Also,
to
like,
show, even the best animators fall prey to such a trap. Make that shit 30 seconds.
Keep it short. Also, because each of his videos could basically be its own reel, it makes it kind of difficult to make a reel out of that, you know?
Yeah.
Boom roasted. It's Well, okay. I guess there might be
Yeah.
some questions in the chat, but I'm gonna take my sunglasses off and then we can go into Rex from there.
Okay.
Okay. Roland says, I'm keen to know why web and UI folks have design systems for brands or orgs, but we MoGraph folks don't have something similar. Well, there's definitely a trend of, I think, a lot of businesses starting to have brand guideline or motion guidelines and motion standards across their brands, but personally, I don't like that. I kind of see it as like a, you know, if we talk about Pepsi for a second, everybody knows that iconic brand doc that they got for that rebrand with the like swooshy thing in it, you know, where they're like, it's a face that's like looking to the stars and other stuff like that, where it's like, okay, you're totally just like imbuing meaning here that's just not applicable. I feel like motion guidelines, especially if it's not if the company isn't working with like an agency of record or only working with one studio, I feel like they kind of only serve to like hurt that studio, because it's like, okay, here's all of our motion secrets for you. Now go ship it off to someone who can do it cheaper than us. Like, that's not really a great move for the studio that's making that work for them. Maybe they don't want to continue working. Maybe they just like doing the brand refreshes. I don't know. But from a business standpoint, I just don't really like it in that way. But then also for the I think it kind of screws the businesses in the long run as well. Like, there's certainly something to be said about, like, there are motion standards, you know, but I think like each studio has their own. Like, there is a Revee look to things, and there's an Ordinary Folk look to things, and there's other studios have their own look and feel. And I kind of like that the marketplace right now is almost like you can buy that look for this particular video. I'm not talking about like the actual design style per se, or like the skin on top of it all. I like the actual feeling of the motion. I feel like you can just be like, I think that this project would be perfect for that studio because of how their motion feels, you know? And I feel like that's kind of lost if you're like, well, I'm going to find whatever animators to make this, or like, we're making this project, but like, it all has to have this same vibe regardless of what the subject of the video is, you know? It would be very different to make a what's a good example here? Making some ad for social versus making a brand spot, like a brand film. Those will likely be a little bit different because one is probably going to be around 60 seconds and one's probably going to be like 15, you know? I kind of like that motion's a little bit of the Wild West right now, because anytime we've had, I mean, brand guidelines can be super useful design wise sometimes, but if we're getting to the point where it's like, yeah, we need like this set of keyframes with these percentages of the speed graph between them for bounces, when we do bounces for this brand, or our transitions must be this speed, or our scenes should each be around this length or whatever, you know, I feel like that would just really limit the brand and kind of keep them from being able to pivot to whatever trends are happening or whatever trends they want to break. Because when you get guidelines and stuff set up like that, I feel like brands keep those around for like 5 to 10 years sometimes.
Ooh, and that's not gonna be good.
That's a mess, because you're just, that'll be relevant for like 2 years or something, and then it will just look dated in terms of how it's like, how the motion's being approached, I feel like.
I will say they can be good if you're trying to like lessen your costs but keep quality similar. To be like, hey, this is sort of how we can treat motion, and make sure that they use curves if they aren't using curves
Yeah.
very much before. But like, I mean, if you have brand guidelines and you want to give them to like the maybe cheaper motion designers, that's fine. I mean, motion guidelines. But like, I feel like, you know, make sure you give exceptions to the people who are actually phenomenal and who are gonna do you right anyway, because that could just be shooting everyone in the foot a little bit.
Because they're like, but we're beholden to these motion guidelines from 2 years ago.
It's arbitrary, man.
Ah.
Especially when people know better than that. It's like, dude, don't.
Sometimes,
And they're probably gonna break it anyway because it doesn't look as good. So,
but with Revee, I feel like we enjoy being able to play in the space of when we need to make a change, we can do it almost immediately, because Revee isn't like a big boat that needs to like steer for a really long time to be able to make a turn or something. We can just kind of be like, okay, speedboat, here we go. We're just going this way. It's fine. And I'd like to think that we instill that in a lot of the brands that we work with. It's kind of like, okay, this isn't working. Let's just do this. Sounds good. But especially with larger corporations and whatever, I can already see that there would be whatever brand team is there. More often than not, we'll just be like, well, we have to use these because we paid this much money for them however many years ago, and we can't go against them because this is the smart way to do it. Like, this is the right idea because we've already got these sentences. So these are the rules. I don't make the rules. Sorry. These are the rules. They're in this PDF or whatever, and just kind of have to deal with it. Whereas anytime we felt boxed into I don't know. I feel like anytime we get that sort of feedback now where it's just like, well, I don't know, this is just how corporate wants it, especially if it's just like it needs to. More often than not, when I've seen guidelines for that sort of stuff, it tends to lean to the side of it needs to be linear.
Ooh,
like
really?
like not really having any exaggeration to the easing at all. Like, it doesn't make a statement, which I think is how you get a lot of, if you look at
that's very
if you look at social media spots, at least maybe not in the past couple of years, but for a while it seemed like the brand spots compared to the social like shorts, the quality is vast because they'll like whatever company will spend hundreds of thousands on getting an agency to do like the proper brand spot, but then they just have somebody in-house or some cheap designer they hired to do like 20 different things for them to put out on social. And more often than not, those are like the kind of crappily eased, like really weird compositions. Nothing feels really well integrated. It's kind of just like, here's an element, here's an element, here's an element. Slide them around.
slide them around.
Slide them around.
I do know. Facts.
Yeah.
Facts on God. Oh, lots of text to read in the chat. Hold on. More content can lead to work opportunities. Roland says, oh my gosh, it's just going. The chat's just
MoGraph
going.
brand guides means more content that can lead to more work opportunities for MoGraphers. In-house MoGraphers can work on more interesting stuff instead of tedious and mundane. Here's what I'll say. And I think what I was trying to get to earlier, but I just couldn't quite get to. I don't like that aspect of the industry where those are used as upsells in order to be able to like get more content in the future, because I think it usually just settles for kind of crappy content getting made. Because like that Pepsi rebrand where they're talking about like I'll try and pull that up. But it's the logo looks like this because of like 50 different reasons on why, and they all have like metaphorical imbued personality and reasons to them and whatever, which to me, because of our experience in college, was entirely what the course was literally just making what you wanted because you had your design instincts or whatever, and then having to like come up with a case on the fly to the professor to try and convince them as to why it's worthy design, and that usually kind of just like ruined the process. It wasn't as much of just like no, this is good design. It's like it's because it has this implied meaning, and we've got it's towards this group. And look, if you look at this particular shape, it's doing this, and this is why, and blah blah blah. And I think it hinders the actual exploration of the design. And sometimes it is okay for things to just look good and resonate with people, just because of that, or just feel good and resonate with people for that reason. But I feel like a lot of larger agencies have sort of gotten away with it for a really long time, in terms of just like, well, but we can also give you this thing, and we can do like 80 bajillion cut downs of your stuff. And it's just like, to me, all that looks like is just tacking up money on the cash register, it's which like, hey, I love money. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's a super inefficient use of resources sometimes. I love brand guidelines from a sense of just like having a start, like knowing what colors to use for each brand is a pretty important thing, and what fonts and those sorts of things. How do we like our things kerned, and all of that is super super useful. Like, no, we wouldn't be able to get through the project we're doing right now if we didn't have those. It would be a nightmare.
Mhm.
But there are times where I think it gets taken to when it is under the lens of like, this will get us more work. I think it often leads to just a bunch of like corporate red tape nonsense.
Yeah. Roland and Trevor bring up good points of like a good motion brand guideline should give a framework from which it is easier for internal teams to use and iterate and make better stuff because they already have a base level, they already have a foundation of what can be done. But they shouldn't be limiting. They shouldn't be something that doesn't allow for exploration and something that makes it, harder to make good stuff.
Agreed.
It should be
And
a helpful tool and not a limiter.
I think that just points to a bigger problem in the industry is you've kind of got like
Flexibility.
I feel like our industry that we consider is like mostly the freelance and studio world. I feel like that's where most of the motion design conversation is, and then the in-house folks are kind of off doing their own thing a lot of the times. It feels like it's just not as well integrated, and I think that's a huge issue. Like, I just find it baffling that there seems to be like such a discrepancy sometimes between like, one, the work that's afforded to in-house designers at corporations and things. Like, it kind of sucks to only work on really tedious, boring things sometimes. And I feel like that really is the reality for a lot of people working at larger companies in-house. I feel like it's kind of just same thing over and over again, and studios afford the ability to be like, I'm working with this client and this client and this client, whatever. Like, there's just more diversity. But to me, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be like, I don't know how to word this in a way that won't make somebody upset, but whatever. If I'm a big corporation, why would I pay all that money to have people in-house if I'm only going to give the good stuff, like the big stuff, to external vendors? That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't I hire the people who I think can do the really important good stuff, like the brand films that I'll go and hire out for or whatever? Why don't I just have that be the people in-house? Like, I think Duolingo made a really smart choice. They're like, why don't we just bring Gunner in because they make the best stuff for us? That makes so much sense. And I'm not saying like corporations should be out here buying up all these studios or whatever, because I think that would cause a mess. But I do think it's weird that like they will devote so many resources to basically just like parking someone in place to kind of do the busy work. That seems so inefficient and weird. I think it would make way more sense to have those marketing departments be separate entities so that, one, they always have a like third person view of what your company is doing so that they can give a better like, no, this is probably how this would actually be publicly perceived, and not be like, I know for Noah and I, sometimes it can be hard to figure out like how Ravi is perceived or whatever, because we have such emotional investment in it, or like we do it every day. So we're kind of like blind to how just anybody would be perceiving what we're doing. But I just think it's a huge issue that sort of disparity is there. Like, why not let those people flourish? And I mean, different
I think it's also
people want different things out of the industry. I get it. So it kind of just evolves into that. But I don't know.
I think it's also how you keep a good team is let them be experts and let them be all creative and push the brand. I mean, some of the best brands, or at least some of the best marketing teams, were really able to kind of flourish and just do the crazy stuff. Like ClickUp's marketing team goes crazy.
Well, and they're just literally,
I'm sure they have a higher retention than a lot of internal teams.
they're sitting there having fun every day.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, like I
you
watch
should.
Isaac's story on Instagram or whatever. He'll just be sitting there like some behind some like blooper reel from whatever thing they were shooting yesterday or something, and it's just like him sitting there next to some dude in I can't even remember what costume it was, but it's all like under like, they brought all of these people who actually care about marketing in there and do it. And I'm not saying that people in-house don't care, but like, it's very clear that they found people who actually all align around their company and do the thing. And like, it's the same thing with Ravi, there's a lot of studios that will have people that are just like studio hopping or whatever from one thing to the next. But like, everybody on the team, as far as I know anyway, maybe I'm completely blind, but seems like they genuinely care and we all have fun. It's a good time. Everyone's there for the passion and whatever. But it feels like a lot of corporations really just kind of put people to the grindstone and are just like, I don't know, here's this task to do. Here's this task to do. Kind of just like a because we think we need it thing, and not really as like a no, really do your thing on this and make it exciting, and like just take your brain, plop it in this project, do something.
It can be a vicious cycle to, the graphic designers getting bored in-house and not wanting to do it because they'll get bored. But like, don't let them get bored, man. I don't know. I feel like it's part of the brand's job to hire differently for design roles than for all your accountants and stuff. Like it's very much a different ball game, I think, when you're dealing with creative hires as opposed to most of the other jobs.
I think a lot of businesses will just fall into the trap of being like, well, I guess we need this, let's just go get someone, without really thinking about what they'll actually do with that role. And then whenever it comes around to like an exciting thing, they're just like, I don't know, just give it to this vendor that we've already been working with or something.
Yeah. They don't know. They don't know any better.
Trevor says it's a skill set and cost thing sometimes. An expert at explainer videos would be expensive to keep around all year if you need one of those. Well, I think we're just uncovering more problems underneath these metaphorical rocks. Like it's I think that it's an issue that like the experts are, well, that kind of sounds counterintuitive. There shouldn't be such a big discrepancy in like how expensive a company would think it is to hire those people compared to having somebody in-house. To be honest, I don't think it's that different, especially with a studio our size. I feel like bringing somebody in for like $80,000 to $100,000 as an in-house motion designer, if all you're gonna have them do is just kind of like slaggy around social content, is insane. Like the amount of work that we could get done for $100,000 is a lot, and it would be really good. Like it doesn't make any. I feel like it's still more expensive sometimes to hire somebody in-house for what you're actually getting out of it. Like, sure, you have somebody that's on call and is like at your company or whatever, but like, are they really at your company or are they just there at their paycheck? It's just not ideal.
You kind of get what you pay for, what you look for, what you care about.
Yeah.
You get what you put in, I suppose.
Well,
shout out to Olga for saying that he'd create a good looking logo in 10 minutes and then practice improv showing it to his teacher. I think that's fantastic and the way to go.
It so is. Those crit cycles in college were such a joke, man. It was whatever.
That's how you get good at improv.
I guess. One more thing, and then I'll give my rec. Roland says Ravi actually has a design system. It's just that it's not written down. You don't have to produce like 2,000 or more videos each year.
You'll see. 2023, 2,000 videos. Let's go.
Hey, it's already happening. I mean, if I'm posting basically every day, we'll hit like 270 motion tips or something, and that's just motion tips. Then you talk about all the shorts from the other stuff, and then the show and all. Like, we might actually hit like 2,000 pieces of content if you consider it that way. Anyway,
maybe just maybe if you're lucky, Roland.
I don't know. You shall see.
And we'll still never write it down.
Never. Even though we kind of already have a couple times in like big messages to the team or whatever on a whim, but that's fine.
Don't tell them that.
I'm not going to tell them. Don't worry. They don't know. All right. Here's my rec.
Okay.
Short little thing from 5.5 Motion messing with the tilde
By the way,
plugin.
where does he work?
Flatway Motion. Look at it. It's delicious.
That's lovely.
Yum. Yum,
That's
yum,
good
yum,
stuff
yum,
right
yum.
there.
Delish.
Will you open mine, please?
So fun, man. Did you send it to me or something?
I did. It's in that channel.
Ah, I see.
This
makes so much sense with Noah because he is such a huge football fan.
Huge football fan. Love the Crows, love the Ravens, love the Buccaneers, I want to say.
The Crows.
The Crows. There's Ravens, so there must be Crows, right?
You're so right.
All right.
So right. A classic.
I love the echoes on the sound. It's just such a vibe, man. It's great. feels like clean and gritty.
Yeah.
You ready for some football?
I am ready for some football.
I'm ready for some football.
That's a freaking banger.
That's a
I
wreck.
love that video. I love it. Love it.
And that's the show. Be sure to put your work in the critique link in the description. I haven't done this in a couple days. Be sure to put your link in the shit. There's a link in the description to submit your work for critique. And then there's also a Discord link down there. And be sure to use hashtag Dailymotion Show when you post on socials, and we just might wreck it. That's
Come
the
back
show.
tomorrow, and we will be talking with.
Jake in
You
Motion.
want to say it? Jake in Motion.
Jake in
That's right.
Motion.
And
All
it's
right.
gonna be a banging time. You'll learn a lot. All right.
It's going to be great.
That's all.